All right, today we are diving deep into a sport that, on the surface, looks like pure, unadulterated chaos. But it's actually an incredible window into a nation's soul. We're talking about Buzkashi, the national sport of Afghanistan. And honestly, that's probably the best way to describe it. Just try to picture it. A swirling cloud of dust, the absolute thunder of hooves, and dozens, sometimes hundreds, of men on horseback all crashing together over a single point. It's a fury that's really hard to wrap your head around. So let's try to make some sense of this unbelievable scene. What exactly is this riot on horseback? Well, this is Buzkashi, and the name itself, goat pulling, well, it gives you a pretty big clue about what's going on here. This is a sport born on the rugged, dusty plains of northern Afghanistan, and believe me, it is unlike anything else you have ever seen. Now, you might hear people compare it to polo, but that doesn't even come close. Buzkashi is faster, it's way more violent, and it carries this incredible weight of tradition that some say traces all the way back to the Mongol horsemen of Genghis Khan. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty, because for anyone watching for the first time, the most shocking thing is the object at the very center of all this chaos. It's a fair question, right? And the answer, well, it's not for the faint of heart. The players aren't fighting over a ball. They're fighting for something they call the baz. So the baz, it's the carcass of a goat, or sometimes a calf. The preparation is surprisingly methodical. It's decapitated, disemboweled, and the limbs are removed at the knees. Then, it's soaked in cold water for a full 24 hours to toughen the skin, making it durable enough to withstand the game. Come game day, that baz can weigh up to 100 pounds. Just let that sink in. 100 pounds. Now imagine trying to lift that from the ground while you're on a galloping horse, with dozens of other riders slamming into you. Which, of course, brings us to the incredible athletes at the heart of the sport. And I mean both the human riders and their equally legendary horses. The players are known as Chapandazan. And in Afghan society, you have to understand, these guys aren't just athletes. They're treated like modern-day gladiators, revered as elite warriors who embody strength, toughness, and skill. And the skills they need are just extraordinary. You've got to have the raw, brute strength to yank that 100-pound carcass off the ground, the incredible balance and finesse to control a horse in what is essentially a stampede, and the dexterity to use a whip, which, by the way, they often hold in their teeth to keep their hands free. And the horses, this is crucial. They are not just transportation. They are active combatants in the game. These animals are trained for years to push, to kick, even to bite, and to protect their rider. They understand the game just as well as the men riding them. So right about now, you might be thinking, rules? How in the world can there be rules and all of this madness? Well, believe it or not, there are. Sort of. Let's break down the two main ways the game is played. So Buzkashi really comes in two main flavors. You have the traditional version, two dabare, which is basically a glorious free-for-all. The objective, grab the goat and just ride clear of everyone else. Simple. Then there's the more modern, organized version called Karajai, which actually has teams, points, and very specific goals. So in Karajai, scoring a point is like a three-part mission. First, you have to make the grab, picking up the carcass from a starting circle. Second, you have to complete the turn, which means carrying that thing all the way around a flag at the far end of the field. And finally, you got to bring it all the way back and drop it into what's called the circle of justice to score the point. But let's be absolutely clear. Even with rules, this sport is anything but tame. It is rugged, it is uncompromising, and it is incredibly dangerous. Broken bones aren't a shocking accident. They're just part of the game. And all of this brings us to our final, and maybe the most important point, because Buzkashi is so much more than just a sport. It is woven deep into the fabric of Afghan society. For centuries, wealthy warlords and khans would sponsor these games to show off their power and their prestige. Owning the best horses and having the best Chapandazan on your side was the ultimate status symbol. And through decades of war and turmoil, Buzkashi has been a constant, a living, breathing link to the proud, nomadic horse culture of the Central Asian steppes. There's a saying in Afghanistan that just captures it all perfectly. If you want to know a man's character, watch him play Buzkashi. The game is seen as the ultimate test of courage, of honor, of strength and integrity. So,
Here's the bottom line. This isn't just some game played with a goat carcass. It's a raw, unfiltered reflection of a nation's history, a culture built on endurance, and a fierce, unbending sense of identity.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our modern world, which is so full of rules and regulations and referees, what can we learn from a sport that so powerfully, and you might even say beautifully, just refuses to be tamed?